What a week it was. Celebrate good times. This is LAFC Plus. Hello, Mario Ruiz. I'm Dave Denholm, and welcome to LAFC Plus, episode 33. Mario, what a week for the black and gold.
Yeah, good times as in plural, right? Two times right there, because those two massive wins for the black and gold and two big celebrations over the weekend. And just those past 72 hours have been amazing. But this is how you want to roll into those playoffs as we get closer and closer, still with 4 games left to get to those playoffs. A winning moment there, raising the trophy, that championship feeling back. It's flowing within the club again. And then a big time road win for LAFC. That's how you want to start rolling into the postseason.
Just so impressive. Just the different ways you'd go about it in a span of barely 72 hours. I mean, it's over 4 days technically, but like 72 hours.
Yeah.
And you get that done. I got to tell you, I'm watching NFL football on Sunday after all this just mayhem over 4 days for LAFC and the great wins. And it didn't even hurt me that bad that the Cleveland Browns are awful. Right? My hometown team, I love the Browns, but didn't even hurt that bad. Like, and that it would usually kill me back in the no, it's not that big a deal that the garbage Cleveland Browns are garbage, which they were on Sunday. So what? It doesn't matter. I was still on a high, and rightfully so, of what LAFC's been doing in those 2 games. And let's be realistic. It feels a little better even if you're an LAFC fan, because of the struggles in a way coming up to those. Like, we didn't know when it was going to turn around. It's going to turn around, right? Seasons are high, up and down, kind of highs and lows. We had some lows to begin the season. People forget that. I can barely remember it, Mario, but there were times early in the season where we didn't score that, like we were having trouble scoring. It was just getting out of the gate. And then all of a sudden we can't lose for months on end. That just shows you. And then you're winning 1 out of 8 in MLS play after a great Leagues Cup run. So it just shows you how up and down a season can be when it's so busy, Mario. But boy, we'll talk about a high this week. Just impressive beyond measure what this club did in a span of 4 days, really.
Yeah, and this roster, is already one of the most talented, one of the most deepest rosters in the entire MLS at this particular moment in the season. It's all about building that momentum, right? Getting into that rhythm. We've talked about it all season long on this podcast as far as, like those moments that you talk about, those ups and downs where you're so hot or you're so low, but it's all about rolling into those playoffs healthy and in good form and in good rhythm. And that's kind of like what we're peaking at with these last 2 wins. Just got to keep it going a little bit more into those playoffs. Keep it going so that we're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of good things, there's no doubt. We can talk a little bit about each one in the sense that their individual performances, no doubt. They were kind of different, different lineups in a way. Not completely, but, a lot of rotation going into Cincinnati on the road. Denis Bouanga, Olivier Giroud, most notably on the bench to begin that match. But the Open Cup win, obviously that's bigger. You're playing for a trophy. I get it. And that was massive, no doubt. First U.S. Open Cup win, first U.S. Open Cup trophy in club history. And it wasn't a competition that we'd done badly in, but we needed that. That was a great night at BMO Stadium. You were right down in the midst of it after the match, running around, Mario. Give us a little feel again. I know you talked about it that night, of course. If you didn't hear the broadcast, the radio broadcast on 710 ESPN, Mario, of course, goes down to after a match, gets an interview for the radio broadcast for us while I'm up in the booth, and he was all over down there. Just talk about that atmosphere again after you win a trophy on the pitch, Mario.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like this photo right here that's up right now of the guys. This is right after they're raising the trophy, doing the sha-la-la and all this stuff. And then they go and present the trophy and hand it over to the 3252.
Love it.
And then the 3252, they raise it up. So this is just one of those moments there. But yeah, just, going from player to player as everybody's hugging and with their kids and with their family and hugging with teammates and just putting the mic in their face and just getting that raw emotion right then and there as they're still sweating, still breathing hard from over 120 minutes of scrapping it out, battling it out with KC. And then here's one of those moments here where I talked to Kai Kamara here after the match.
How does it feel? What's your emotions right now?
I mean, this is what it feels.
to give these guys here. I've been on the outside really enjoying how people enjoy themselves here in LA, and for me to be home, to be a part of this history, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful.
Winning trophies is fun, but when you win them at home in front of the supporters here that poured their hearts out all night long, that's even more special.
So much more. I mean, they came out, they turned up for us tonight. They've been doing that all year, and so definitely they deserve this, and we're happy. Even my family, my kids are here. They flew from Kansas City today. They made it here at 3 o'clock, and they came to the game, so it's the best.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's Kai right there.
Yeah.
What a guy, right?
Absolutely. What a performance. He had the final goal that really clinched it. Obviously, Omar Campos getting what would be the game-winning goal, technically. And I got to tell you, just the performance all around that pitch for 120 minutes was just spectacular. And credit to Sporting Kansas City. We knew they were going to fight. That was their season. We talked about that before the match on this show last week. And they gave it everything they had, no doubt. It's just a better team wins at home. Again, we talk about home field advantage a lot of times on the show in world football. And that made a difference, as you talked about with Kai, Mario. You were right on. It did make a difference that night. There's no doubt about it, especially in those extra time periods. And that I'm convinced to have that home field on an extra time with an older Sporting Kansas City squad. Now, we're older, too, in a way. We got a lot of experience on the pitch, but we do have a lot of young guys, too. But maybe Sporting a little older, it makes a difference when that crowd is behind you for 120 plus.
And Kai's been such a huge, and I talked about him about he's going to have big goals for LAFC in the postseason.
Yeah, you did.
And he can't be in a better situation, I think, here with LAFC. He just knows how to get the ball into the back of the net with all that experience and all that confidence that he has, and to get that opportunity to be on this club where there's so many talented players, so many talented attackers, for him to sneak into a game and get into a really big situation like he did against the Galaxy in the Rose Bowl, like he did on the road in Austin to get the game-tying goal late to come back with the point against Austin. In the Open Cup there, you see him get in and seal the deal for LAFC. I think there's still bigger moments ahead for Kai. Because like I said, you have to worry about Olivier, Bawanga, Maddie, Kike. You have to worry about, and then Kai gets in there and he has a chance to really find the back of the net because he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. If the opportunity is there, he's going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing surprises me out of him. It doesn't matter what he does. And he's holding up the ball well. He's really playing that position very well. As is Olivier Giroud. We don't want to overlook that. He had the first goal, of course, getting the lead in the U.S. Open Cup. But I also think he's getting more comfortable with his teammates, not just the goals. He has an assist on the Denis Bouanga thriller at FC Cincinnati, proves to be the game winner in that 2-1 win. He knocks down the ball there, brilliantly fighting. I mean, he's doing what Olivier Giroud always has done, and that is to be selfless and play for the team. He's always battling up there. It's not always easy the way we're playing at times, right? In terms of the formation, he's getting a lot of long balls from Hugo Lloris's left foot. He's got to just battle. It's not always easy. He's got to physically get in there with these center backs, and he's doing it, and he's grinding. Yeah. He looks he's playing like a guy who's trying to earn minutes, which is crazy because he's a World Cup winner. Happy birthday, Olivier Giroud, by the way.
Yes, sir. That's right.
As we record this, his birthday. So happy 38th birthday for Olivier Giroud. But he's acting like he's an 18-year-old trying to gain minutes, and it's just insane. The guy just gives to his teammates. He's passing the ball. Like, all the things he's done his whole career, and I'm loving to see it because he's getting more comfortable with his teammates too, and they're starting to get more comfortable with him, Mario, and that can only spell good things in the long run for LAFC.
Happy birthday, of course, to Olivier. Before we move on, I want to just give him his props because he's doing Olivier type things this year for LAFC, and hopefully he's enjoying his birthday, and hopefully he's sipping out of that U.S. Open Cup and doing a toast to himself for his birthday celebration. But I mean, he's just one of those big time players that just world class type players that shows up big on the big stages. He's like, okay, we're in a final. This is my time to shine. This is my time. That's what separates the greats from just, the good players. We saw Vela's done it plenty of times with LAFC. Bale did it with the MLS Cup final. And now Olivier, he's played in 2 finals for LAFC, 2 goals. in the finals for LAFC, for Olivier Giroud, and hopefully there's more to come from him, and we'll see more Olivier magic, hopefully in the playoffs here coming up.
See this picture. If you're on YouTube and you're watching us, you can definitely click the like button, all that stuff. Subscribe to the LAFC Plus, or the LAFC channel, if you will, and we show up there. But you see the picture, if you're on YouTube, of Olivier holding the U.S. Open Cup trophy, the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup trophy. I think it's the Dewar Cup or the Dewar Trophy, named after a gentleman who was a big part of it early on. By the way, he's won a World Cup, right? Of course. Olivier Giroud. This U.S. Open Cup is a lot older than the World Cup as a competition. So just to give you some history, this thing goes back to 1913, 1914 is when they first played this. Yeah. The World Cup, 1930 was the first. I mean, so it predates the World Cup by almost 20 years. So that just goes to show you the history of this thing. And Olivier looks very happy in the picture after winning it. No doubt about it.
He does.
Yeah, and I love that. I got to tell you who I'm very happy for in winning the Cup. Before we move on to the Cincinnati game a little bit, I'm extremely happy for Hugo Lloris. Now, again, a World Cup winner, okay? He's won a lot of stuff over the course of his career. I get it. But I'm extremely happy for him because let's be realistic. He, maybe could have made more money elsewhere playing football this year, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe could have went to another country, the options were probably not limitless, but they were, there was a lot of options for a guy like Hugo Lloris to continue his career. He picked LAFC. Now that's a big part of what John Thorrington and his team does, and we're great at it. So I know why Hugo picked LAFC. They're great at recruiting. Don't get me wrong, but he made some sacrifices too. So and the way he's playing, I'm just thrilled for him because it never gets old. I'm sure winning and hoisting trophies. Yeah. So I wanted to just shout out Hugo Lloris. He's played great. The whole team just did the business in Cincinnati. I mean, Mario.
Yeah.
As I said, the Open Cup's the bigger win, quote unquote, right? On paper, whatever. It's an Open Cup. It's a final. But for an MLS regular season match, Mario, this is one of the best MLS regular season wins I've ever seen for LAFC, and we've had a ton of them.
Yep.
50th for Steve Cherundolo, by the way. Congratulations to him. But we've had a boatload of wins over our history. We've been incredible in MLS regular season play. And this is one of the biggest, I got to say, in terms of situation and the circumstances. I don't know if you agree. Sure you do, quite frankly.
And teams, Dave, also, don't forget about these two teams. These are two of the best teams in Major League Soccer, and LAFC to go up there and show their dominance on a rotated lineup. But honestly, with the talent that LAFC have at the moment, what rotation? Really? Because you don't really feel it sometimes with a lot of the weapons that LAFC have. And as Cincinnati saw this weekend, not to mention Moody was out, Atuesta is out, Aaron Long was out as well with injury. So those are some key players right there for LAFC. But still to come out with the full 3 points has to be one of the biggest, toughest wins. And after all that too, there was a problem with the flights. The flights were delayed heading into Ohio. So that was a tough, well-earned win for LAFC.
Yeah, that's it too. I mean, look at the scheduling in this sense. Now, you don't know you're going to make the U.S. Open Cup final. The schedule is what it is. But you're playing back at BMO after you had already traveled a few days before then for a road game, right? You go back to BMO. You get ready for a massive final. You're not playing particularly well of late. Let's be realistic. It's not like we're on some massive high like we were earlier in the year. You do all you have to do to win a cup. And literally 72 hours later, you got to go across the country with those delays. That's a long flight. Believe me. I know. I'm from Ohio. I understand how long that flight is into Cincinnati. At that stadium with those fans, that team, as Mario said, it's just, I mean, I was tired trying to do those two games back to back, and I'm not even doing anything but doing the play-by-play. So I can't imagine the players. And yet, look, there was rotation too, of course, and that's got to be expected. As we said earlier in the show, Denis Bouanga started on the bench. Olivier Giroud started on the bench in Cincinnati. I got to be honest with you. I wasn't sure we were going to see them play on the road in that match, Mario, necessarily, but they do come in. Right, but Denis comes in at halftime. Giroud a little bit later in the second half, and again they both contribute on the winning goal. Olivier Giroud with the game-winning assist, Denis with the game-winning goal, which was spectacular. If you haven't actually seen a replay of that, go check it out. Just
How did he get that? How did he squeeze that in there, Dave? I knew 1v1, the defender had no chance. So I knew Denis was going to get a good cross in. I didn't think he was going to get a good shot into the back of the net.
Yeah.
Amazing.
At that angle. And here's the thing for Celentano, the keeper. Now, people will say, well, you can't give it up to the near post, right? That's always the line you hear. You can't get beat on the near post. If he doesn't take the angle he does, Denis will beat him to the back post. Like, that's Denis Bouanga. Like, he knows where he's going to put this. Yeah. He sees Celentano maybe not exactly covering the near post, right? Trying to cheat a little bit, so he beats him there. But if Celentano like took away the near post hard, let's say, like really took away the near side, he would just put it to the back post. I mean, it's not. Celentano did the best he could. He tries to put the leg out like the goal. I called it on the broadcast like a goaltender in hockey, the kick save with the pad.
The kick save.
He tried it. It was already in the back of the net by the time he got his foot out. And Celentano is no slouch. I was telling my dad that afterwards, like, because my father he's starting to really get into football and really follow LAFC, but he doesn't know a lot. He hasn't been following it his whole life. And I'm like, Celentano's a well-respected young talent, and for a goalkeeper, especially 24 years old, he's got a bright future. Because my dad was like, well, maybe he shouldn't get beat to the near post like that. I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong, but Denis knows what he's doing there too. He'll pick out the right spot. He'll pick out the perfect hit. And he did, and he buried it. And it's just, like I said, a true winning organization does what they do. You're not playing great coming into this stuff. Another busy week. We've had nothing but busy weeks. It seems like we've played 15 games in the last 35 days. I know it's not quite that bad, and you expect them to just like go into Cincinnati then after all that high, and there's every excuse, Mario, to just not play great. Maybe even just try to get the 0-0 and just like, button it up as much as you can and just like beg for a 0-0, maybe, get the draw if you can't muck up the game. Nope. They get the first goal in the match. And then when the Cincinnati comes back to tight, you're thinking, oh, no, like they're going to – and Cincinnati was pouring forward trying to get a game winner. They needed a win, and they knew what they needed at home against a team that's tired and all that. And yet LAFC just finds a way. I mean, it's a true winning organization. It's not a cliche. This is what good organizations do, not just teams. You build for this kind of stuff because, as Mario pointed out earlier, and you're right on, Mario, I want you to talk a little bit more about this before we move on to the next segment because it does matter. It's not really rotation because the guys you bring in are guys who should be getting minutes, but there's just not enough room all the time for them to get minutes, ironically. So talk a little bit about that too, because you bring up a good point in the sense that we have about 15, maybe even more starters, realistically.
When Steve tells us, before the match, he says, hey, I think we're going to rest some guys. Then he's going to get a little bit of rest. And Olivier's going to get a little bit of rest. We're like, okay, so what's the lineup going to look like? And he starts explaining, some of the players are going to be in. And then we're just like, well, I kind of feel strongly about that lineup, because these guys are talented. They're eager. They're hungry. They're ready to go out there and show what they got as well. Yeah. So it's a strong lineup no matter who you put out there. Yeah. And with LAFC, wanting to win every single tournament, every single trophy that we participate in, you need guys like that. You need a deep roster like that. And LAFC do have that. And to go to finals, multiple finals already in one season, you're going to need deep rosters like that because you need rotation. Yeah. It's definitely needed. You can't just go out there with the same starting 11. You're going to need to rotate a little bit here and there. But to put out a strong lineup every single time, that's impressive. And there's nobody prouder than Steve Cherundolo of his guys. And here's a little bit what Steve had to say after the big win in Cincinnati.
A lot of character and mentality in the group. It also shows where the team's and individual players' priorities lie, namely for the team and for the club. And just the words I just shared with the boys, I felt not an ounce of selfishness tonight, and championship teams have to have that. They also have to have quality, which we have. And if we can find ourselves, in a good spot at the end of the season, we're healthy and fresh, then I really like our chances to go far in the MLS Cup, because the team has shown that they want this. They like to win, and they are willing to put in the effort, play out of position, run for 90 minutes, defend, suffer, be clever in certain moments, and take advantages when you can. And those are very good signs at this stage of the season. And I couldn't be prouder of the group this week. We had some travel issues yesterday. They dealt with that extremely well after only one training session before this game. And to come here and play like we did in the first half and to finish the game out like we did, absolutely fantastic. Couldn't be happier.
Can't argue with that. I think he summed it up brilliantly, really. Can't add more to that. It is what it is, and that's what a true winning organization does. He describes it brilliantly. We do want to move on to Let Him Cook, and it's part of what we've been talking about because it's local here. Where we do talk about other MLS teams. We'll get to that in a minute. And sometimes the Let Him Cook segment is about another MLS side and an MLS player. Well, it has to be black and gold this time as well. It is the young Venezuelan, David Martinez. The goal he scored sounded like this against FC Cincinnati.
Ryan's got Martinez open on the far side. Martinez puts it on his left foot. Shot from 12 is in! David Martinez has scored! Oh, the talented young Venezuelan has opened the scoring tonight at TQL Stadium. It's 1-0.
Yes, sir.
What
the
a
youngster.
player.
He has all the
player.
confidence in the world, and to have the coaching staff have confidence to put him in there, that's all he needed. That's all he hopes for. Just a little bit of chances here and there because he has all it takes, and he's going to definitely contribute down the line here. He's hitting his stride, and LAFC showing that they want him in there. So let's see more from David. So happy for David.
Got the start, got only 45 minutes because Denis Bouanga just can't be stopped. He's a force of nature, and he wanted to get in there, I'm sure. So he was subbed out for Denis, even after scoring in the first half, as we just heard. That was the first half goal that gave LAFC the lead at the break. But David Martinez, one thing that struck me is I keep studying, I go through all the stats all the time, and sometimes you kind of miss stuff, even though you're writing it down every time, Mario. I'm doing my little sheets, before every match. I feel like times I'm doing the same thing. 18-year-old Venezuela, I write it down purposely because I want to write it to get it into my head every game. And I'm going through the stats, and what jumped out at me, look, his 13th appearance, right? 2 games started now with that game he started against FC. It's just his second start. 3 goals now, 1 assist, 82.6% passing completions, 19 shots, 10 of them on goal, which for any player is a good ratio, but for a young kid, really just starting to kind of find his way, in MLS. That's really good. But here's what's impressive. 3 goals, 1 assist in those games. You think 13 appearances. Oh, that's pretty good, right? He's a young kid. He's only played 287 MLS minutes.
Wow.
That's barely over 3 full games.
Yeah.
Right? 90 minutes per. His 90 minutes per for goals and assists is better than 1 combined.
Wow.
That's better than 1 goal contribution per 90 minutes. That is incredible.
Those last 45 minutes that he played were amazing. I think those were the best 45 minutes that he has played. And Cincinnati did not know how to handle David Martinez coming at him.
My goodness.
And once he put on that left foot, I knew that one was going in, baby.
And it's not rare for LAFC to do this, but I love that they're letting David come inside into the middle a lot.
Yeah.
Right. He's playing on the wing plenty, and that's where he scores the goal. Of course, he's going to make those overlapping wing runs, right outside of the 18 at times. And look what happens, right? He gets the goal. But he's also able, around midfield, you'll see him coming back. In the defensive half, he'll come back into the middle of the field and start kind of number 10-ing it a bit as you get farther up the pitch. I love that. Oh, this guy is so talented. He's got vision. He's got touch. No disrespect to any other young players around. There's a lot of good young players in MLS. There's not a better 18-year-old. And there's no surprise that, we know even before we signed him, there were, places and outlets calling him one of the better, 18-year-olds or young kids in the world. That's the bottom line. And there's a reason they were doing that. And we see it. And we're seeing it more and more.
He passes the eye test right away, Dave. And we just got to enjoy him while he's here. We got to enjoy him because the more and more success he has, the more and more he's going to get looked at by other teams around the world. And he is just doing an amazing job right now with the chances that he's gotten so far.
Absolutely. And it's a strange conundrum, too, because he got the red card early, even getting a goal and an assist in that match, ironically. And then with it comes a back injury along in the same time frame. So that put him back a little bit. And you also have a team that's loaded. So it is difficult, right? I mean, he's only played 287 minutes. He's getting a lot of valuable experience. He's played in the Leagues Cup, of course. He scored goal. He's played in the U.S. Open Cup. So it's not that he's just played I'm talking about MLS minutes here, regular season. But Mario, you can't keep him on the bench. Like at some point, it just at some point, Lionel Messi at some point had to break into Barcelona. And I'm not trying to compare the two, but you get my point. Barcelona was already loaded, right? Yeah. But there comes a time when somebody's ready to play that it just you have to play. I mean, and again,
if you want to be a great team, you have to have situations like this, though, right? If you want to be one of those top teams,
it's a tough situation.
You want to win championships, you want to win trophies like you just did. You need to be in these situations where, like, we have so many good players. It's hard to pick the line of the starting 11, or if so and so is not getting so much playing time and they're really, really a good player. Yeah. Those are the type of issues you need to have if you want to win trophies.
And it's, look, a team can also mishandle it, in my opinion. Now, maybe I'm going to talk about one, and maybe they didn't really. I don't know the ins and outs. But on the outside, a guy like John Duran, who was barely 18, he comes to Chicago Fire, right? They paid a good little sum for a guy that everybody thought was going to be amazing. And he is. They sell him for a fortune, but they barely played him. And I don't say barely. He played a lot more than David Martinez because he was around a lot longer so far. So David's still kind of getting into it. But people were like, why is he not playing more for Chicago? He's going to be moving on. And as it turns out, they got boatloads of money for him, and he's a great player over in the Premier League now. But you have to handle it correctly too. It's not an easy thing. And for a team like LAFC, it's even tougher than Chicago, to be honest. And what I mean by that is, as Mario said, we've got more talent. We got guys who deserve to play. And maybe
this is one thing that you and I talk about, Dave, away from the microphone. This is something we talk about off the air, off of our shows. It's like, we need to see David. Like, how do we get him in there? We're all excited to see him.
Who you taking out? Yeah, that's the problem. They don't deserve to be taken out. I mean, and that is the conundrum. It's an issue that resolves itself generally too in world football. That's the good news for the most part, right? When you're a good team, as Mario said, you have good players. That means other people are interested in your good players too. So these kind of things do have a tendency to kind of resolve themselves. But when you have a lot of good players, it's not easy. And I mean, that is a difficult task. It's not something to be just blown over for coaches. I mean, managers, you can make the right selections, yes, but you also have to find minutes for people who deserve them. And David Martinez deserves them. There's no doubt about it. Let him cook. And the reason we say let him cook too, Mario, those little moves he made on a couple of plays, not just the goal, but wow, against Cincinnati. You said it. They could not contain him. It just was an impossible task. And it is those little touches.
Let him cook and then let him sip his tea afterwards too. Well deserved.
Love it. He reminds me of, and man, it's hard to say this. I feel bad. Sorry, David. I'm not trying to he reminds me of Carlos Vela. It's just simple. It's just the little touches and the little things that are just, they're just above, the players are, just
the little things.
Yeah. It's the very little things that, the class stuff we talk about and everything. And wow, what a player and what a finish. And, again, 19 shots, 10 of them on goal. I like to see that. It is crucial. And he's picking out corners. He knows how to play. He knows where the ball deserves to be. He knows where to put it.
He knows how to make the right pass, Dave.
Yes.
To the perfect foot, to the right foot of the player that wants it. If he wants it on the right foot, he'll pass it, through ball to the right foot. It's little things like that.
And even if you're going to lose the ball on a pass or something, I love the fact that he knows which pass to make and he tries it. Because, again, you're going to lose the ball. How many times does a team lose the ball in 90 minutes? Hundreds of times. I mean, so you have to be willing. So too many guys are not willing to try that pass, And we see it in other sports too, by the way. It's not just a soccer thing, but sometimes you got to be willing to fail right in the moment, right in that very moment. Because, I mean, how many times has Messi this last game got his pass cut out? Happens all the time. I mean, it just that's the way it goes. But it's the one that doesn't that we all watch in the highlights for 15 years. So that's what you got to do. Oh, what a game. What a player. What a game. What a week it's been. And we do have other things to talk about in MLS that were very important too, which is awesome. That's the plus of LAFC Plus. Dave Denholm and Mario Ruiz with you every week here. Episode 33. Want to give you a little recap of around the rest of MLS.
Oh, yeah.
And Mario, we got a bit of a break with a couple of results, too. I'm not going to lie. That's always
that's
nice.
No lie, Dave. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you and I were in the midst of our match, and sometimes Mario are on a break, whether it's the post-game show or at halftime, which is, of course, the only place you get a break in world football. Boy, I was ticked off. I was mad as could be, as good as it was going for us.
Yeah.
As I was scoreboard watching it during breaks sometimes at Austin FC. I was so mad.
Come on, Austin.
At home that they couldn't just give us a little break and even put up a fight against Real Salt Lake. 80 minutes, almost 80 minutes, and they're down 2-0, limping to the finish line in MLS. They don't deserve any love or praise. Austin FC, garbage game. They were. Wait a minute. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
2 goals in the final 10 minutes again against RSL for them to drop points, Mario. What a turnaround in that match. What's happening with Real Salt Lake here? They're faltering late in these matches lately.
Yeah, and they almost lost that match because
really
Austin had a chance in stoppage time to actually win that game and take the full 3 points. Yeah. That's one of those draws, one of those ties for RSL that feels like a complete loss. You get on that plane, you feel like you just lost, even though you picked up 1 point on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, they just let that one slip away.
Yeah, I don't buy into the 1 point on the road is always a decent result. No, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. It depends how the game goes. Look, if you come back from 2-0 down on the road in the 80th minute, fine. It was a good point. You battled and you kept fighting on the road. But if you're up 2-0, I don't care if you're at home, on the road, or the moon, you got to finish that off if you're a good team. And it happens. I get it. But it just happened the week before against Portland in stoppage time. In a 4-3 thriller at the time, or whatever it was, 3-2. But then Portland gets the goal to tie it, in the last moments of that match. So, boy, those are 2 really tough results. One on the home, one on the road for RSL. And
thank you, Austin. Thank you, Austin, because that's one of those teams, RSL, that you do not want to face in the playoffs. When you have to go out there, if you're in a knockout game in the playoffs, you don't want to be in that altitude. Another team is Colorado. Colorado. That's another team you don't want to go face in that altitude, too, in the playoffs.
Well, Colorado certainly didn't appear to want to go to Minnesota because Minnesota United slapped them around the pitch a little bit. And 3-0, Calvin Yeboah, whoa, is he hot from Minnesota? The signing who came in, in the secondary window. Wow. I think he has more goals than games played in MLS right now. I think it's 7-6, if I'm not mistaken. 2 more in this one. A 3-0 win for Minnesota United. They're climbing up the table.
More help for LAFC. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point of it, really. And Colorado, again, Colorado struggles a bit on the road at times. They do have a home field advantage, though, that you don't want to really mess with if you can help it in the playoffs.
And they're just 2 points under LAFC. Just 2 points under LAFC.
Yeah. In the East, we do want to talk about the big derby, right? The Hudson River Derby. NYCFC on the road across the river there, or across the way into New Jersey to take on the Red Bulls, the New York Red Bulls. And that was a thrashing of all. 5-1. A couple of goals, I think, in the first 8 minutes. They were flying around New York City. Well, New York City is definitely blue this after this match. And I got to say, Mario, it points back to what we talked about not that long ago on this show. I just feel like, and I think you agree with me, NYCFC appears to be the more serious club. And I know
and they're more serious with Alonso Martinez.
Yeah.
He's a really good forward. He's just been there for a few games now. He had a brace in that match. He's a hungry player. He knows how to score. He already has 4 braces for the team in the short time that he's been there. He's a big help to that team, and he's putting them on another level right now.
And I know that Emil Forsberg hasn't been around, but, again, we don't hope for or expect injuries, but he's not 22. Things start to add up as you get a little older. So, he's a great signing and everything, but and I know they're tied on points still. Ironically, after all this thrashing, we talking about NYCFC, they needed that win over Red Bulls to tie on points. They do happen to have the tiebreaker now with wins, but they could still fall back behind the Red Bulls, who are a good team too. But you can't get beat by your rival that badly. We saw it against the Galaxy in the second half. We've suffered that. That is tough. That is not. But we were on the road. Game thing. Yeah, absolutely. No,
to
make no
give up
mistake.
5 goals at home
Different
to your
situation
rival. Oof,
Yeah.
That's crushing. 5 goals at home. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Absolutely. Different being on the road versus home. No doubt. I'm not. But my point is, that's hard to overcome. It can take a little while. Like, that is a blow.
That is.
And,
that is.
you know, who knows? I mean, we'll see how the Red Bulls respond. Usually they respond pretty favorably, in fairness. But it's more about giving kudos to New York City FC. I think they're, you know, it's still a team that's finding themselves, ironically, which is weird for the 31st game of the year. But I think they have a lot of talent. And it could be a little bit of a feisty problem. We've seen them actually give Columbus some fits every now, you know, like, you don't always win, but they give, you know, I think they could be a bit of an issue in the playoffs for any team that they take on, even though they'll be on the road in terms of if they get by the first round, you know. So
no, you're right, Dave.
Yeah, let's take a closer look at these conference races. I want to get your take on these. There's really not a race in the East in the sense of first, I think, you know, but Inter Miami maybe stubbing their toe down the stretch here, Mario, might give some people some hope in the playoffs, right? Maybe
they have 3 draws in a row, I think, right, Dave?
Yeah, they're not rolling, right? Not like still got some time in the final 3 matches to kind of get that momentum going again. And they could, in fact,
against Columbus on Wednesday. Yeah. That's a tough.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good can't miss match there.
Probably doesn't mean anything for the Supporter Shield. Yes, they play each other, but Columbus is in second place in the East, 8 points back. I know they have a game in hand and all that. So, yes, if they beat Miami, maybe there's a little bit of, you know, it's not dead, that's for sure. But Columbus is looking good for second as they overtook Cincinnati, who, of course, stumbled against us as we punched them in the nose on the road there at TQL Stadium. But those 3 are still fine. There's just jockeying for a little positioning there. Let's go to the West, really. This is where it gets crazy, and it's for us. LAFC are back in second in the West after that impressive win. What a victory it was. And for more than just the win itself, Mario, those 3 points on the road in that scenario. I mean, look at how tight it is, right? I mean, you'd be at 50 points, or even, you know, maybe if you lost that match, even I was assuming a tie based on the game, the way it was going. But even if you lost that match, you're at 49 points still. I mean, you're very
also, it gives you a little bit of hopes for that first place spot too.
Yeah,
because if you lose this match, or maybe if you come away with just a draw, it's still a ways away. But now you're within reach with enough games to, if you pull out those wins, you might be able to get that first place spot. And you know LAFC are going for that top spot. So yeah, huge win.
And I believe we even talked about the Galaxy actually still have to play Colorado and Houston. Tough matches. Yeah. Now, if the Galaxy were to win those, that doesn't hurt us that bad. Yeah, we might not get first place in the West, and that would be, we don't like that. But it does kind of, smack Colorado down a little bit in the standings, maybe keep Houston away from, getting too crazy here in the end. So a lot of positives to still be had potentially. Now, RSL is on 52 points with LAFC, but RSL dropped 4 points, no doubt, in the last 2 weeks. They should have those 4 points and be rolling right now, frankly. They could be a real threat to the Galaxy had they won those games, Mario. They would only be 2 points back. Now, they don't have a game in hand on the Galaxy, but still, you're flying if you're RSL winning those games. That's how bad those draws hurt so bad. This thing is just wild in the West, though, isn't it?
And the West is so bunched up that there's already 7 teams that have already qualified for a spot in the playoffs. There's only 2 spots available that are left in the Western Conference. That's how bunched up it is. And still some good teams that are trying to get in. Looks like Minnesota and Portland will probably get into those last 2 spots because they do have enough points. They're pretty much up there. But the West is looking really, really tough.
Yeah, but it's crazy because you could say, well, it looks like Minnesota and Portland are going to get in. You're right. They could finish 4th, realistic. I mean, and not I don't even mean mathematically. I'm talking realistically. They could finish 4th. Mathematically, they could still finish 2nd, but that's not going to happen, with all the permutations. They could finish 4th realistically by finishing strong. Yeah, they need some things to go against some other teams, which they could, of course. I mean, that is insane. It is so bunched up, as Mario said. Any of these teams are annoyingly good, for one thing. They're going to be tough. the Western Conference playoffs are going to be just an absolute brawl. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, look, there are some great teams in the West that are better than the others. We're one of them, frankly. Like LAFC, the Galaxy, even RSL. They're better than Minnesota and Portland and Vancouver and Houston. Sorry, they just are. But man, it's so tight that any of those teams could give you a real challenge. There's no doubt, especially in like a first round thing. I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
And with LAFC to have decision day going against San Jose at home, that's 3 points that LAFC are going for sure. That's a big plus for LAFC because you know that decision day is just going to be crazy for the Western Conference. I mean, the Western Conference is going to be moving, shifting. All the seeding is going to be going wild on that day with everybody playing at the same time.
Exactly. And one of the bits we like to talk about, Mario, is the team can't look ahead like this. Just keep trying to look. We can. Here's the beauty of it, right? Mario says San Jose. We've also got St. Louis coming up. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Wednesday. A team with very little to play for, but could be a little tricky. They're playing a little better. They've got some new signings, so not easy, but I mean, come on. Like, you got to beat that team at home. Let's be realistic. It's a must-win on Wednesday coming up this week. Pre-game beginning at 7 p.m. on 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app. And then you also have that game against San Jose later. You have a game in hand. There's still a lot of things that can happen for LAFC here. Very positive things. Now, they cannot get the number 1 overall seed. We cannot win the Supporter Shield, unfortunately. That's not going to happen. It wasn't realistic for a long time, the way Miami's playing, even with their stumbles of late. But we could really do some damage finishing up the season strong here, Mario. Let's get a little winning streak going, I think.
Exactly. And if you're an LAFC fan here in LA, make sure you get out to the stadium because there's only 2 regular season matches left. That's this Wednesday against St. Louis, and then there is that decision day that's on October 29th against San Jose. So make sure you make it out to the stadium because if you felt the stadium in the last home game for the Open Cup, it was electric like it hasn't been in so long. And the fans, let me say a shout out to the fans really quick because I know the fans played a big, huge part in pushing LAFC to raising that Open Cup at the end of the day after those 120 minutes. Because, some teams, they think they have home field advantage, but some teams don't have the 32-52 like LAFC does. So when teams come to BMO Stadium, come to downtown LA, and they play against LAFC and that deep roster, you're also going up against the 32-52. So big props to all the supporters and all the fans that were there that night. It was rocking. I got chills right now, matter of fact, because it was
big props,
such a beautiful, beautiful time, beautiful night.
Well said, Mario. And I want to tell the 32-52 and all the fans at BMO, the players do notice, and it makes a difference, right? Sometimes we hear in sports, sometimes you get these naysayers on the outside. It doesn't home field. It doesn't really matter. Or they do know, and it does affect them. I promise you. We talk to these guys. And it affects
the opposition that is there playing against LAFC. They know. Yeah. They feel it.
And our team knows it affects them. So it makes all the difference. It does. I'm telling you. I mean, that's the beauty of world football, right? It's a game built on passion. It is.
Yes.
That's why I love it. No doubt about it. That's why I love doing the show. That's why I love talking about the game and covering it. I cannot wait as the season's wrapping up. I can't wait for the playoffs, but I really am pumped about the final 4 games. I really am. And again, that begins, this final 4 push begins Wednesday. If you're just, if you're hearing the show before then, listen in. Pre-game 7 o'clock, 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app, MLS regular season against St. Louis City SC. They got a few new players that are a little tricky. It's not a team going anywhere because they had a rough, long stretch. But man, these new signings have been very interesting, and they're contributing. It's going to be an interesting match at BMO Stadium. Join us, Mario. Great stuff, buddy.
Let's not think it's going to be a pushover over 2 days because St. Louis, they just had a nice win over Sporting KC. Sporting KC had a tough task on the road again after their Open Cup loss. But yeah, St. Louis, they have a talented team, and that was always going to be a tough game for KC. But for them to pull out that win, they got to be feeling good coming into BMO Stadium for Wednesday night's match.
And nothing to lose. Let's go play spoiler a little bit and try to try to kick somebody in the shins. That's a really great team in the West in LAFC. So absolutely. Great stuff as always. LAFC Plus. Join us each week. Thanks so much, Mario. Good stuff, buddy.
Go black and gold. Thanks, David.